Joining us right now, the great mayor of the city of Toronto, the city that I was born in. Great to have you on air, Mayor Tory. How are you this evening?
I am just getting myself worked up into a complete lather about our Reds playing in the championship game this Saturday afternoon.
Fantastic. And let's talk about the Reds and their supporters, Mayor Tory. You know, we got the Leafs, we got the Raptors, we got the Jays, we got the Rock, but there's something special about these supporters. They're loud, they're proud, they're respectable, and all over the world they know about TFC supporters in the great city of Toronto.
I must say, I was at the conference final game last Sunday, was it, or Saturday, whatever day it was, and no, it was Wednesday last week, and I'm just standing there, and it's chilly but not too cold, and the whole place is just alive, especially the fans down at the South End, who of course are legendary, and I don't think they ever sat down, I don't think they ever stopped chanting the entire game, but it's just really symbolic of a great group of sports fans, a new kind of sports fans. I mean, the Leafs Nation has been loyal, and it's been, stood in there with a team that struggled from time to time, and they have great hope right now. But as you say, these fans are different, and they're known outside of Toronto for their kind of rabid commitment to this team, which itself struggled for the longest time before it even made the playoffs. And so they're now getting their reward, and they're as loyal and boisterous as ever, and I think it's fantastic for the game of soccer, but it's also fantastic for the city and for this team that has given us so much to cheer about this year.
You know, Mayor, I got to tell you, last year here at the final, there was reporters, journalists, TV and radio people from all over the world, from Italy, Spain, South America, Mexico, and what they kept on commenting to me was, Anthony, your city is safe. Your city is clean. Your city is a place that the rest of the world, I'm sure, knows about, but everyone needs to know about to come here. That's got to put a smile on your face and in my face as a citizen of this city that I love.
Well, it does. Look, we're not perfect, as you acknowledged, but we've really got a way of living here that I think is known around the world. And, I say that we sort of embrace everybody with open hearts, open arms, and open minds. And, we sort of take people as they come. And I think that's a great thing in the world that, is becoming more polarized. And, of course, there's nothing that brings people together. I mean, music maybe, but sports brings people together. You don't have to speak the same language as the guy you're sitting next to in BMO Field to enjoy the game that you're seeing in front of you. And so it's a great unifier. And, of course, the game of soccer, if you want to talk about a global game, is one that is bound to do well in the world's most diverse city. So I'm just so happy that there's so many games. I mean, one of the other things I saw this year is off topic of soccer, but the rugby, the Toronto Wolfpack rugby, team now has a following that's growing in the city, and they're fans that are just as committed and just as crazy sometimes about their game. But I think it's sports that brings people together and, causes people to celebrate together and just generally have a good time. And, if you can't have a good time in a big city, I mean, life's not worth living.
Well, absolutely, Mayor. The World Cup, when it comes, this city is alive. It is electric in all sorts of different parts of the city. Little Italy, little Portugal, you name it. Wherever you go, the city is alive and it is awake. We are bidding Canada, Mexico, USA for the 2026 World Cup. Toronto could be a possibility to host some games. I got to tell you, it would be unbelievable for myself, two sons and my wife to sit at either BMO or Rogers Centre there and watch a game. How exciting is this, and how important would it be for your city to host games?
Well, you want to talk about something that would put us on the map, of course, something that would bring huge, enthusiasm and interest to the city, huge tourism and economic benefits, and huge pride to the city and to all the communities inside the city, as you mentioned. I mean, this city, I think some of your visitors you talked about who, see Toronto, they would be amazed to see it at World Cup time, where just about every country that has a team in the tournament, is carrying on its own celebrations and its own vigils, depending on the results of the game. But I can just tell you now, I'm 100% behind the bid by the three countries. I am going to be gunning for as many of I think we're going to win, and for as many of those games as Canada gets, I'm going to sort of pitch for as many of those to be held in Toronto as we can. And I hope nobody listening on the broadcast here is offended by that in any other city. But I'm just going to pitch for as many as we can, because I think this is the biggest and the best soccer community in the country, one of the biggest and best in North America. And so I just think this is going to be a fantastic thing, and I'm very optimistic that this bid, combining uniquely as it does three countries doing the bidding, is too good to pass up. You know, Mayor, just before we get to some grassroots issues, we know you're tight for time. We won't keep you much longer. I can't let you go without talking about how great it was to see Larry Tannenbaum
with MLS and he lift up that Grey Cup. Here's a guy that I've said it for a number of years, and people made fun of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment because they didn't like to spend money in years past. But here with TFC, Altidore, Jovinko, Bradley, Defoe, on and on. All the guy ever wanted to do was bring championships to this city. You have a great relationship with Larry Tannenbaum. How important is he to this World Cup bid, but also to continue to build some possible, as we go into the grassroots issues, some more fields for the kids?
Yeah, well, Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment, I'm so glad you mentioned that because they are the class act of sports ownership, I think, in North America. And Larry Tannenbaum, of course, is key to that, together with the folks from Rogers and Bell. But they do everything in a first-class, professional, fully invested manner. And that's why we have the coaching staff and the facilities. I mean, they spent a lot of money, making sure BMO Field was not just another field. It was a first-class field among the best of its kind anywhere. And so I want to pay tribute to them, and Larry Tannenbaum has been the one that's been most engaged in this. And I think it is important. I mean, I think ownership makes a difference. And we're seeing some of that now with the same ownership approach they're bringing to the Leafs and to the Raptors. And I think that's why Toronto FC is doing so well. So I just hope that they can go all the way now, because we have some unfinished business, as I like to say, from last year with that shootout. It was a kind of a tragic way to lose a championship game, and so we've got another chance coming up on Saturday, and I know Larry Tannenbaum will be there, I'll be there, we'll all be there, cheering on the Reds and bringing him another championship, because, of course, as you mentioned, he's one of the owners of the Argos now, he and Bell, and they're doing a great job, rebuilding that franchise as well, but it makes a big difference. It really does.
Absolutely. Mayor, let's turn very quickly to some grassroots issues. You mentioned the rugby team, and that was one of my topics here that I wanted to discuss. Many people sent questions for you as I tweeted out you were coming on. Lamport Stadium is in badly need of upgrades, Mayor. And I don't know if you know, but in 2019, a new Canadian professional league, the Canadian Premier League, will be based coast to coast. They would love to play there if possible and if upgrades are made. Where are you right now with Lamport Stadium and upgrades?
We're going to begin some discussions which have to be in concert with, in partnership with the Wolfpack, for example, because at the present time they're the main sports user of the Lamport Stadium. And, we want to make sure, it is definitely a facility that is in need of upgrading, but it kind of depends on what it is you're going to be doing with it going forward. And if the Wolfpack and rugby and other things are to be a big part of that, and they certainly demonstrated that they're on the verge of being just that way, then I'm sure we'll be able to work something out. And they have a plan that doesn't involve kind of tearing down and rebuilding the whole stadium, but rather, refurbishing things that are just not really up to snuff in terms of the dressing rooms and the stands and so forth. And I think you could do something for a reasonably modest investment that would make a very big difference. So I'm all ears, but I have to do it in partnership with others, and we're just awaiting those first discussions with the Wolfpack organization.
Mayor, lack of quality fields, lack of fields in general. I tell you, as a parent of two boys that finished playing in the system here, and especially playing a lot of games in Toronto, I shook my head when my boys had a game against a club named North Toronto, a wonderful club that based out of Avenue Road and Eglinton area, and their home games would be played all the way up at Allen Road and Shepherd because they had no fields or quality fields for that matter. Where are we at that? Are we starting to upgrade some of those fields in the city of Toronto? Are we starting to add maybe a few?
Yes, and I will tell you that we just approved as a city council a new facility master plan, as it's called, put forward by our Parks, Forestry and Recreation Department. And in the 20-year plan, and it is a 20-year plan, so it's not something where you're going to see it in 20 days, but the 20-year plan includes 45 new soccer and multi-use sports fields being built. That's an increase of 14%, and it includes, starting right away, upgrades to existing facilities. So it includes upgrades to 10% of the current fields, and that's going to provide the equivalent availability of about 20 new fields just by making ones that are not up to the standard, better. So we're onto this because I've heard myself from people who, literally talk about the fact there are sort of holes and cracks in these fields that can cause people injury, let alone, just not being a decent place to have a game. So we do have a plan that has been approved by City Council, and now we just have to move forward and do it. It takes time because there are many competing priorities in government, but I'm aware of the fact that this is a game that is being played by many more, and they have to be doing it in proper conditions and not, as you say, as far away from home as sometimes now is the case.
Couple more questions and we'll let you go very quickly. Someone tweeted, Mayor, what do you think about partnerships with school boards to dome some turf fields over the winter time?
I actually don't have a problem with it. As you know, a lot of the expense of that has been borne by the private sector partners. but it has been the subject of some controversy. I just will tell you for myself, I am not only not troubled by it, but I don't think we should be doing it at every single place in every neighborhood, but I just am not troubled by it. I think it is a positive thing. The partnerships are positive. The 12-month use of those facilities is positive, and so I'm favorably disposed to it.
Let me ask you this, Mayor. The city has a lot of outdoor hockey rinks. Can some of these be converted in the summer to be used for soccer?
I don't know if the sort of the parameters of them is right in terms of the size, but just as we've converted a lot of indoor facilities to do things in the winter, there should be no reason we can't consider it. I mean, frankly, if there were leagues that wanted to play on that space, as you probably know, an artificial ice rink has underneath it a concrete surface, so it's not like it's some delicate, sort of thing like sponge. So I see no reason why we couldn't explore that. And if somebody from the industry or the soccer world, as it were, wants to put forward some specific proposals in that regard, again, subject to somebody telling me there's a technical problem, I'd be more than willing to take a look at that.
Lastly, before we let you go, Mayor, we really appreciate your time. Why doesn't the city have more soccer-specific small community stadiums, maybe 4,000 or 5,000 seat stadiums? You know, we see the Centennial Stadium. I think it's outdone its time personally. I mean, it's gone through a lot of wear and tear. Esther Shiner Stadium of many years ago up in North York. Why aren't we starting to build some more stadiums like that of 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 seat stadiums?
I guess, to be honest, and I'm just being perfectly honest about this, it's a matter of priorities. Like if you sort of said to people, well, would you spend your money on the 5,000-seat soccer stadiums, even including Lamport Stadium? That will be one of the challenges when Lamport Stadium comes up for a refurbishment, and that's one of the reasons I think having a partner is so important. But if people, had their choice, and I know it isn't either or, and it's not black or white, but if you said, well, would you rather we spent the money we have on fixing up and upgrading the soccer fields, creating some new soccer fields without the 5,000 seats, but just ordinary soccer fields in neighborhoods, people would say, please do that ahead of these larger kinds of facilities. But maybe as the need changes, and again, you'd have to educate me with respect to how many people there are to fill up those 5,000 seats if you're going to build that kind of a stadium and do it in a first-class manner. And if you said to me, well, it's going to be full and in use all the time and all those seats won't be sitting empty, then I guess, that's something we could take a look at. But it's simply competition for scarce public dollars. If there are private sector people listening who want to be part of helping us to finance such a thing, I can just tell you now they should come on down to City Hall and we'll have a chat.
Well, Mayor, outstanding. Listen, I can't thank you enough for making time. I'll tell you this, Michael Bradley, Josie Altador, Sebastian Jovinko rave and love this city. They love it as their own. Their families love it here. I know because I speak to them. They have told me this is their home. We've got young boys that travel up here from the United States and they come and watch TFC. A young boy by the name of Murphy Malone. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but this boy has gone through some heart surgeries and he comes up here, Mayor, and he loves the city with his family. And he says they have embraced him as one of their own. That's got to put a smile on your face. Thank you, Mayor. God bless you for what you're doing. And we can't thank you enough once again for making time.
Thank you for having me on, and go Reds.